I was here a couple years ago and talking about geothermal in the UK. At that time, I was fairly new to that. And so since then, it's been interesting to see what has been changing along the way. So this is where I met Eren along the way, and we found out that in his early years, he was working in geothermal. He worked closely with GeothermEx because GeothermEx has been doing geothermal projects around the world for over 50 years. And so we had that in common. And I was surprised to hear some of the things he was saying. So that's where we started thinking, let's get this message out here, because it's time to really move the needle with geothermal as a valid renewable energy resource in the UK. So we put together this talk. Here's our agenda, and we'll just zoom through this. So first of all, this is a little map. This is the GeothermEx project map. So you can see our offices. This is the one slide that is, about kind of my day job. And you can see the stats in the top right corner, where we have some pretty impressive credentials when it comes to geothermal projects. In fact, over 80%, about 80%, it's hard to tell nowadays, of the geothermal power projects in the world, GeothermEx has had a part in that. And so we work on all different aspects of geothermal projects, but historically it's been projects in steamy ground. So volcanic regions and places that you typically think of when you think of geothermal. So that's where really our bread and butter, our portfolio of work has come historically from that. And then it's been over the past several years that we've started to have projects in other parts of the world. I mean, there's always been projects in other parts of the world, but now it's really becoming a thing. And so much that we set up the London office, which is not a historically steamy ground location. And we're doing a lot of work in Europe and the Middle East. So when we come to think about, in fact, this slide sort of gives an introduction to the geothermal energy systems. Now, geothermal just means heat from the ground, heat from the earth. So it's a really simple concept, but the implementation is really complicated. And there's a lot of different words and descriptions and acronyms and types. And this is also part of why it is difficult to get it going in places where it's not historically, obvious. But that's what makes it a new story, a new opportunity, is because, we have new technology and also old technology that works and has been being upgraded over time. So this is what we typically use to describe the different types of systems, going from the really shallow stuff to the historically conventional hydrothermal systems. In the UK, we don't have so much of the volcanic hydrothermal stuff, but what we do have is this view, which is by the BGS. And so because we're talking about the UK view of geothermal, I want to spend some time looking at this, because this is what everyone's trying to make sense of and come up with kind of simplified ways of describing the opportunity. And it's really hard to do that. So this is what we're working with here. And you'll see this kind of repeated throughout. So if it's new, just bear with us here. Because there's open loop and closed loop, where open loop is you've drilled a well and you're pulling up geofluids from the deep and stripping the heat out and putting the colder fluid back down. That's what we call open loop. And you can see that in different system settings here. And then there's also the closed loop where it's totally contained. You drill a well and close it off to the geology, and you circulate your own fluids in there. Or, okay, that sounded weird, but you don't interact with the geofluids. So you're doing interesting things with fluids that are in a contained setting. And so different people are doing different things. There's all these different companies that have sprouted up to exploit or develop different solutions and working at different temperatures and making that work. So this is where the London geothermal solution will come into it. When I gave this talk back in a couple years ago, these were some of the highlights that we talked about, where the top left, that's representing Cornwall, and the story around the really relatively high heat flow, radiogenic granites, and drilling wells into there to exploit the fractures, the natural fractures in the granite and the metasediments over that, and noting that there's also high lithium concentrations down there. So that the critical minerals and the geothermal brines, this is where there's some big plays in the UK, initially in Cornwall, but also up in northern England, and also I think even up in Scotland. So I won't be presenting like specific project updates, but just to say that type of geothermal project of the critical minerals and brines, that's definitely on the up and up. And with the offshore geothermal, there was a pilot that was done back then. So that pilot finished, and I don't know of any new pilot projects that are doing that, but I'm led to believe that was a successful project where they were able to put down equipment into the well and repurpose that in order to get a little bit of power, generate power. So there's that. And then the dancing one, that's the Town Rock Energy up in Scotland, and they've been doing a lot of other kind of settings, doing things with boreholes, pretty shallow geothermal stuff. Then you have the mine water. That's where, so this picture in the kind of middle right of the top of a mine. I can't remember the word for that, but yeah, at a colliery. So especially in coal mines, this is where there's a lot of successful projects, especially up in the north of England, and now they're looking to other mining regions. So the mine water geothermal is a big thing as well. Then you have the bottom left, that's the Woking multi-purpose center that I believe is now operational. And then the Swaffham Prior Integrated Village Community Hub, that one had switched on the first 300 homes, and that was a really exciting model for what it could look like when a village or a small rural place sets up their own energy hub in order to get weaned off the gas and oil. So that's what was happening before. And at the same time, the BGS has been very active, including the funding and setting up of these different geoenergy observatories. So the Cheshire one at the time, a couple years ago, was not fully, it had just been launched, or it was just about to be launched. And so now that's fully operational, and there's been a lot of work done, people testing equipment and experimenting with the different boreholes that they have set up there. So the involvement of the BGS to pioneer and dedicate time and resources to testing and experimenting with geothermal energy is something that's really important to the whole movement here. So moving into the deep geothermal story, again, this is something that was presented by BGS over at All Energies conference, I think last week or recently. And so you can see, I like this because it shows the different types of geothermal opportunity. So primarily the red for the granite bodies and the orange for the sedimentary basins. And that's really where a lot of the focus, because the people who are the geothermal subject matter experts tend to be, deep geothermal people. And so that's where the focus has been, either in digging into the granite or seeing what you can do with the sedimentary basin. And it's also where the oil and gas sector, all of the different skills and obviously subsurface expertise, it is directly transferable to the sedimentary basin settings. So maps like this are really insightful because it tells you where's there a good opportunity. And every map is a little different. And by showing where there's sedimentary basins and implying that there's good potential there, it also shows that the places that are not orange are kind of implied to not be good places to do deep geothermal. And that's okay, because one of the great things about geothermal is that there's something for everybody. There's all, harking back to that, the geothermal energy systems diagram, you can get heat from the ground that is usable at shallow temperatures, at shallow depths and low temperatures. So this slide about the deep geothermal, it's pointing out some of the specific instances of where there's projects today. And a similar story over with the shallow geothermal. It almost kind of like too much to cope with, but so GSHP, ground source heat pump, there's always a kind of controversy when you get a bunch of geothermal enthusiasts in a room of, is ground source heat pump, is that real geothermal? And then everyone kind of weighs in on their opinion about that. So again, this is one of the reasons why it hasn't totally taken off, is because people don't agree on, what it is. How do we define it? What are the right words to use? How do we message things in a clear, actionable way? That's one of the obstacles. So it's all right, kind of identifying it is part of the journey to fixing it. So we're still at this stage of, in a way, kind of thrashing around with different descriptions and terminologies and shapes and sizes and who's who, and different factions are creating their own kind of network and wanting to get things moving. Everybody who is working in geothermal or wants to work in geothermal in the UK, everyone wants to get the show on the road, which means getting the government to do certain things to acknowledge that it's a valid source of renewable energy, and so forth. So so shallow geothermal, meaning ground source heat pumps, meaning really shallower than 250 meters, or sometimes you see 300 meters. There's a lot of that going on, and it's all good. Every shape and size of exploiting the ground for heat is great. And then one of the interesting things is that the thermal energy storage kind of experts, or the research and the experimentation with thermal energy storage, there's no geo in that. And so they've kind of been not off on their own, but the thermal energy storage people, which includes expertise here at Imperial College, Professor Matt Jackson, which this article from 2024 shows the aquifer thermal energy storage in the London area. So it's just surprising how many different types of geothermal is going on. And at the same time, the BGS has been building a tool, probably building a bunch of different stuff, but this UK geothermal platform is something that's coming out soon. It's going to be released in the summer. And this is where they have, uploaded a bunch of data, and it made it available for people to consume and make their own decisions about how to use geothermal energy. And you can see the little diagram in the bottom right that shows these 4 different layers: closed loop ground source heat pump, open loop ground source heat pump, hot sedimentary aquifer, deep geothermal EGS granites, meaning enhanced geothermal systems, which was one of the types in the geothermal systems view. So you can see here, this is kind of the most vivid example of that. There's something in there for everybody. And it's great to see that they're putting time and resources into making data available for people to do things with. So, so all of this is at our fingertips. And, one of the things about geothermal energy is that it really doesn't travel very well. And it means, and because it's a different story at different places, it's specific to the location, then it means that you can't just kind of access geothermal energy and then put it into the grid for wider consumption. It doesn't just go out to the ether. It's very personal and specific. And so it requires really a different mindset to think about how we use geothermal energy in the UK. And quite often, generally speaking, we say that use geothermal for clean heating, cooling, and power, or electricity power. Now, in order to use geothermal energy to generate power, it has been the case that you need very high temperatures. 120, 150 degrees centigrade, Celsius, is what's commonly referred to. So, so it's always kind of a messy part of the discussion to talk about. Okay, why are we talking about power and for geothermal in the UK? It's only specialized places that have it. It's not everywhere. That's what has been being said. And so we'll just put that to the side for a minute. Because if we can just understand what our demand is, what do we actually need? Here it's showing just average electricity consumption in different types of buildings, residential, non-residential. What do we need? Because if we can define what we need, then we can find a way of getting it in a sustainable way. And it's the same with the heating demand. is kind of easier, or it's more achievable with the heating demand. And here you see that the non-residential types of buildings consume quite a bit of heating, and that's without even talking about cooling. So kind of matching up the different system configurations that are possible and what is our demand at different places. That's really the opportunity. And one of the kind of new things that's been starting to happen is the NHS hospitals have been, getting funding, getting attention, wanting to, being incentivized to change their infrastructure in order to be able to be heated and cooled by geothermal energy. So there's none that I know of that are live NHS premises that are using geothermal heating and cooling, I think. There's several that are underway. And so, but it's a really exciting, it's great to see, that, and you can see why it's such an obvious target. If we can fix that, and there's so many, then we should be able to make a dent in that. So this is where, I think that part of this whole, the new opportunity is if we can understand what we need and use our global context, look to places that are, to countries that are already doing geothermal energy utilization to update the infrastructure and to change over, get off of fossil fuels, utilizing renewable geothermal energy. It's that combination that is really exciting. So this picture on the right is in the Netherlands, which Netherlands are really leading the way. They have very strong government backing. They have a strategy, a national geothermal strategy. That's something we don't have yet in the UK. And so it's great to be able to know, we don't have to look very far to see how to do it and what they're doing. So to talk about the new era.
Actually, it's not a new era. We have, as people said, the geothermal is weekend opportunity in every location. Even in here, we can check the location, and we have shallow to deep geothermal options. In shallow geothermal, our source is solar radiation, not geothermal, actual geothermal. In geothermal starts after 500 meters, and real opportunity is in the UK after 2025. In this year, gas boilers banned for the new buildings, and for the other, as I know, all the airports, hospitals, universities already did their deep geothermal and shallow geothermal feasibilities. And we have all these options, and as a geoscientist, we have a big role now. In deep geothermal, as you see in this map, and when I work for the ARUP, we published a report with Renewable Energy Agency, and we expected 10 to 15 projects each year. It was 2 years ago, I think, but even I'm expecting more projects to catch these 2030, 35 and 50 goals. Even as a London Geothermal Consortium, until the end of 26, I'm planning to create as an ESCO model, energy service company. I'm planning to create almost 15 projects and almost secured 250 million finance, but just we need some policy as feed-in tariffs, etc. As a geoscientist, The problem till now was we have almost all companies and investors think we have all the public data and we don't need to explore more. But I'm pushing these companies, and I will do the same. We need detailed geothermal works. First, to understand the real potential, we have Curie Point depths of the UK. I'm renewing it to focus the real gradient areas, and we need to replace our Curie Point depth, which is Curie Point is about 600 degree, and with the magnetic data we can understand where is the deep of the heat source. After that, we need to check all the geochemical data to analyze the geothermometers and to understand. Even I checked some of mine water projects in Verdale Granite. They have a geothermometer analysis. I made the geothermal analysis, and it says the source is around 150s. And we don't need to stick to EGS projects in Cornwall. We have lots of very good basin systems in the Wessex Basin, Cheshire Basin, and the other Scotland, Northern Ireland. We have very good locations, but we need to explore. We don't need to stick to public data, which explore just for oil and gas industry. And microseismic is one of the important things. In my company, we are creating now some kind of digital twin to analyze and predict reservoir. And with microseismic, we already have some projects in Turkey for ambient noise tomography, like 3D seismic, but the cheaper one for the geothermal investors. They like cheap things. And and then we need to monitor these reservoirs. We are abstracting water and reinjecting, and with the microseismic we can follow up where this water goes, and do we need another valve, etc. And first, as a desk studies, we are starting with remote sensing, GIS mapping, creating a conceptual model, and later on structural geology fieldworks, gravity surveys, magnetic surveys, and later on geochemistry, soil gas measurements, etc. We need especially magnetotelluric works to understand, is there any hot water in there? And we also need for the next phases seismic. Even we got some seismic, existing seismic lines. Maybe we need to create new 3D seismic things to create real projects. Then empty pumping tests, etc. We have lots of roles in geothermal business, and not like oil and gas business. We are not stuck to some places or some reservoirs. We have lots of opportunities, and even shallow geothermal. We need to include as numerical modeling and selection of the abstraction and reinjection wells, even to follow up the monitor the reservoir with microseismic. And as each country has different opportunities as geothermal. We have not high temperature reservoirs, but we have low temperature locations. And because of this, I partnered with the QBVO Energy. They are manufacturing organic Rankine cycle, microorganic Rankine cycle in Turkey, and now I got 50% of this company, and already find some finance to bring in here and create a facility in here to create low temperature power in geothermal and in industrial waste heat and oil and gas, existing, repurposing of oil and gas wells and other marine projects. Even we can put this micro RCs to naval vessels. This ships, vessels, engines create 100 degrees, and on your way you can create power. And with this, I believe we will have a chance to show more power projects in the UK future. And I just created this map with the existing gradient data, and almost 70% of the UK can create some power. And later on, we are also producing large-scale heat pumps, tailor-made heat pumps. And after create power, we can use heat pumps to create 5th generation heat networks. This is the new generation of heat networks as ambient loop systems. And in the same time, you can heat and cool your facilities. And as technical and some to understand the potential, rather than use small ground source heat pump systems, we can create some aquifer thermal energy storages. Because each company or some ground source heat pumps companies can do this, but in this aquifer thermal energy storage needs geoscientists. And we can create aquifer thermal energy storage with just 8 degree delta T. We can create even 2.7 megawatts in each location. And for the borehole thermal energy storage, we can create also up to 1 megawatt. And we have lots of options. And as you see, as formation list, we have suitable formations even in London and in all over the UK. If it's not suitable for aquifer thermal energy storage, we can do borehole thermal energy storage. And for deep geothermal, which my expertise, as a deep coaxial wells are very popular in, for example, in Manhattan. Each big buildings, almost each buildings, has their own deep geothermal standing columns, some kind of ground source heat pump, but not using the groundwater. And they can create 200 to 500 kilowatts. And they can heat up all these big buildings. If you need more, you can use 2 deep well. And in here, the company that I worked before, ARUP, has a joint venture with GL and Geon projects made in Jubilee Pool to heat up this pool for each season. And for deep geothermal doublets, again, we need only as a delta T, with a 30 centigrade delta T, and with a very small 50 liter per second flow rate, we can create 6 megawatts, which you can heat almost over 4,000 houses. And the idea is, if you have a potential, deep geothermal potential, you have to use it. If not, you can use ground source heat pumps. And if you don't have any aquifer, you can use closed loops. And this means we can use geothermal and shallow and deep geothermal in every location. And even deep geothermal, as you know, the COP, coefficient of performance, with 1 kilowatt, you can get 4 kilowatts as a COP4 in ground source heat pumps. And for air source heat pumps, it will be around 2.5 to 3. But in deep geothermal, we can get the COPs over the 20, which will be more efficient. And as energy security, your part is some kind of.
Yeah, so this is where, you know, we've just heard about how we can generate power from using geothermal energy at low temperatures. And so this is really a game changer. You know, this is what it's not been, when you say that out loud, people look at you and go, that's not correct. You know, it should be 150 degrees C that we need. But this micro ORC technology that can use low temperature and not be limited to geothermal energy, also including waste heat. You know, we can use what we have and be able to get what we need, which is why it goes back to understanding what we need. And so with energy security, you know, these two images recently, you know, where Heathrow was shut down, power outage. Spain and Portugal shut down, power outage. This type of kind of dependency that we have nowadays on electricity to just magically be there, and we're so distant from the understanding the supply chain. It's like we pay for this and it's on or it's off. And when it's not working, then there's nothing we can do about it. We just suffer. So it really is a change to consider being independent and being able to put together your own geothermal solution for your business or home. I mean, we'll talk about businesses, but you know, and this is where it plays right into the what is important to everybody nowadays. You know, energy security, being homegrown, domestic, reliable. You know, once you get, it's complicated, right? It's like there's a lot of different variations, but there's also people who specialize in this, and this is what one of the things that is exciting to me is the consumer doesn't have to really understand everything when there's a provider who will be able to set up a off-grid you know, energy installation for the business. So once it's set up, then geothermal energy available continuously, small footprint, you know, it doesn't matter if there's weather events. It's great in that way. And because so much of the UK relies on gas boilers or oil boilers for heating, you know, it's really exciting to think about being able to switch those off. And of course, reducing dependence on imports. You know, it's the dream. So I came across this article the other day, just talking about you know, when Trump came into office, and I promise you, I do not want to go on about Trump, even though I'm from that land originally. We won't go there. But when he came into office and started rolling back things and, you know, being a naysayer about renewable energy, there was this concern that other parts of the world would, you know, go along with that or not continue to pursue a green energy future. And so there was a poll that was this was from the end of April, this article that I read in the FT Weekend, where it was 100 executives from 15 companies across Europe. And so these 1,500 executives, and this caught my eye, 93% said they were considering investing in their own on-site renewable facilities. You know, this is what we need. This is where we're going. And so the fact that that's people are thinking about that, and I think that we can expect to go that direction.
Yeah, like gas boilers, the heat pumps will be very familiar, will be in all our houses, and geothermal will be well-known things. And this subsurface batteries and seasonal heat storage, this like thermal storage, etc., with combined fifth generation heat networks will be in our new feature. And AI-driven reservoir management with microseismic, etc., fully digital twins, controlled cities, smart cities are coming, and urban microgrids powered shallow geothermal, again, fifth generation, etc. And other government foresight has their own project to create some greenhouse, technological greenhouses in underground storages in London, in everywhere, or even unused tube areas, etc. It will be very well known because after we pass this net zero things, it will becomes negative zeros, and it will becomes embodied carbon. And in that case, even they will start to calculate the travel embodied carbon of a banana. And this banana can be grown in your nearby underground area. And it can be controlled with the geothermal because we can control heating and cooling. Those are the next phases. And offshore geothermal is coming on the way. And I'm also trying to involve with micro RC as a wellhead technology, etc. We can create some, after micro RC, we can create some liquid hydrogen, and with lots of now the steel companies, very big steel companies are exploring off-grid volcanic locations to create power and get this, with this power, create liquid hydrogen and use this, create liquid green steels. Those are the new things that we are waiting. And strategic heat planning, energy security, all the army sites, all the public buildings must be off-grid systems with solar, green technology, and geothermal. And even we are pushing UK government to bring some feed-in tariffs and a reliable geothermal law for us. But even in that case, carbon credits on the way. Already started, and carbon credits which will be like stock exchange. To make a business, you have to show your emissions, and even you have to buy this carbon credits. And in that case, I, because of this, opened my company as an ESCO model to collect green assets and collect carbon credits to sell other companies that's not entered the geothermal business. And
things are starting to happen. You know, this is where we have, one thing that's been missing is there's no unified voice for geothermal. So in fact, that's Eren and I have been, you know, working together with other representatives across the energy sector in the UK, you know, trying to form something that we can get people fighting our corner in government, getting people to, getting the word out there and making some noise. This is what we're doing. So, because for example, even in GB Energy, there has not been any mention of geothermal. And in a recent, there was what do they call it? There was some the leader of the MP leader for the Deep Geothermal All-Party Parliamentary Group, so really a geothermal advocate, Dr. Kieran Mullins. He gave I can't remember what it's called now, but a session in Parliament and got them to agree to add and geothermal to the GB Energy, documentation or definition. So I don't know if it's been done yet, but there was verbal commitment to do that. And so it's things like this that will make a difference. And so things are looking up. A couple years ago when I presented on this, there was nothing in that space. It was only just a bunch of different independent companies trying to get geothermal going. And now, we're coming together, things are happening, everybody's kind of tuning into it. So that's great news. So this is where, what we want to do is harness the innovation. This is a game changer concept that means that we can have a weather independent source of heat and power and cooling, a sustainable alternative to traditional energy sources. This is what we're talking about. And being able to, the dream is to take all of the subsurface expertise, all the skills and knowledge and tools and everything that was developed, and the UK has such a good reputation in this regard from the hydrocarbon industry, transfer that over to geothermal, no problem. But in order to do that, we need more business, we need more investment, we need people to know about it, we need people to do it. So that's why we're out here making noise and talking about how we don't need to have steamy ground in order to generate power. We just need to know what we need, and then we can go.
And as geoscientist, I'm trying to also push the geoscientists to create their own startups. We already lots of startups opening, and they all nonsense. Even we don't need another dating apps. We need some geothermal startups, and we know this business. And now with the digitalization, we can do it. Even this coding things without no coding. And because of this, I'm also trying to create a venture capital to help geothermal startups. And we have lots of opportunity about heating, cooling systems of municipalities, industrial sector, commercial buildings, agriculture, greenhouses, residential projects, tourism, and all over the markets are needs renewable energy. Even this digital twin idea is one of them. If you want to add something can affect any process like an innovation, you can do it. Or if you know anything from the oil and gas sector, which will be help the process, you can do it. And yeah, we need to create startups because if you look at the startups, they are starting, the new startup CEOs are around 18 years old, etc. Now I'm 42. I'm a dinosaur,
and startups are really fun.
Yeah, I just started, and we need to start earlier. As if you are graduate, etc. At least you have to start to think what you can do or what you can bring this business. And yeah, and please, and I want to promote this Women in Geothermal. please join the Women in Geothermal, womeningeothermal.com, and there is Women in Geothermal UK. You can follow up from social media, etc. They are creating webinars, lectures, and you can join for free. And in geothermal business, we are very small community, and you can always access to us and ask to us. Yeah, thank you so much.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.